Now, as for Prince Miller, if you read the newspaper articles about him back in the late 80s, he was one of those people that they would have had you think would have never got out and was a monster. When he was on trial for the triple homicide of 3 Colombians in the Baisley Park projects, who some of the informants that worked for him claims he gave the order to take out and rob while he was in jail, which doesn't sound like, in my experience, guys that are dope dealers sell dope, and the robbers and the killers do that. Why Prince, who was running this drug thing, would have suddenly turned into someone who was having Colombians robbed and killed? I think some of his underlings did it and wanted to blame it on him, and apparently that's what the courts or the jury agreed with, because he was never convicted of it. In the state, they suppressed some wiretaps, and then the charges are dropped, and the feds immediately picked up the wiretaps, and that's what Prince got his 7 life sentences for. No homicides, all drug and related conspiracy cases. But so interesting when I said you could teach a course about the Supreme Team. Well, the interplay between the media and prosecutors, in a way police and prosecutors use the media. So when Prince was on trial there in 90, 91, 92, we had a couple trials. This, of course, was in the aftermath of Officer Byrne, the rookie cop who was gunned down in South Jamaica by people connected to Pappy Mason, which really had not too much to do with Prince, though here is some footage of Pappy and Prince at Prince's 22nd birthday party. They did all know each other from that general South Jamaica. But in the aftermath of that, there was a lot of fear tactics used on the jury and in the media, and a guy named Trent Sirius Morris, who was present when those Colombians were bumped off, and he was one of the ones saying Prince ordered it from jail, but Morris was there himself. The day after Morris testified, or during his testimony after he started, 2 of his relatives, like maybe his sister and her stepfather or something, were STABBED'd to death in the Baisley projects. And of course, the prosecutor implied that has something to do with their relatives' testimony against Prince Miller. And they even said that there was a P for Prince carved in the victim's chest. But about 6 years after that, in the late 90s, the guy who really did those crimes was caught and convicted, and it was just kind of a run-of-the-mill crackhead robbery type thing that just coincidentally occurred at the same time the trial went on, and the prosecutor in the coroner admitted, oh well, there was no P carved in anybody's chest. That was just our imagination got the best of us. But at that point it was too late. Prince was already doing 7 life sentences, though he wasn't convicted of those charges anyways. But I'm sure that helped generate an air of like, oh, these guys got to be taken off the street.
Byrne's brother was executed in South Jamaica, Queens, on orders from a jailed drug enforcer, Pappy Mason. Scott Cobb was the getaway driver.
I think that it was because of the things that were happening in a place like Queens.
The sources who are familiar with the case say Mason thought murdering a New York City cop would please his friend Nichols, because Nichols was angry over receiving a 25-year sentence.
That changed a lot of lives. It changed the lives of the Byrne family. It changed the life of those in the street, and it changed my life.
And that's why the judge, I'm sure that was helped convince the judge to sentence Prince to 7 life terms, none of which were for murder. And technically Prince's the whole criminal run that he got all that time for was only from I think December of 89 to February of 90, like a 90-day run that didn't include any murder convictions. He got 7 life terms for, so I'm sure the judge must have held some of this other stuff that he wasn't technically convicted of against him. And interesting that the judge in this case, Judge Ray Deering, was the same judge, for those of you that have seen my Frank Matthews documentary. When Frank Matthews got arrested and got out on his huge bond, and he was reporting to court because he was going to go to court, and then one day he saw Ray Deering, who was a prosecutor at the time, who said, "Hey, Frank, we got a new indictment coming down on you. It's that new continuing criminal enterprise that carries life." And that's when Frank disappeared, because Judge Ray Deering told him that he had another charge coming to carry life, because they had just introduced that continuing criminal enterprise, that infamous Jewish racketeer Herbie Sperling. Actually, he got hit with that right around the time Frank disappeared in '73, and Herbie Sperling never got out. That was the same thing that Prince Miller got, actually, later on in '91. Herbie Sperling got that charge. He was a Jewish guy that was a conduit between various dealers, including people like Nicky Barnes and other of the large Harlem dealers in the Italian Mafia. Sperling got hit with the continuing criminal enterprise in '73 and never got out. He died a couple years ago. That guy did almost, 50 years, 45 years or something? So Prince did 32 years. Herbie Sperling did 25 years more than him. Wow. So you don't want to get on that list with the feds when they decide you're one of the bad guys, because no matter what you get convicted of, they can hold other things against you and keep you in there forever. So a lot of Supreme Team stories, very interesting. I'd imagine now that Prince is out, maybe he's working on, he worked with Showtime to do that documentary series they did. I would imagine he's working on some TV and movie stuff, because the Supreme Team has so many chapters, so many sub-stories, that they definitely could, if they can make if 50 Cent can make all those other crime series, he definitely, and he's been using Supreme Team stories thinly veiled. Prince might as well work with some production company to make a real version. So Prince Miller is home, a real black mafia boss, I guess, from the '90s, free, out profit, American.